Welcome to the Hollenberg Pony Express station. It was built in 1857 as a ranch house. It is the only remaining unaltered station still standing in its original location. Garrett and Sophia Hollenberg work long hours with their hired help to run the station. Sophia cooks, cleans, does laundry, and gardens. Garrett is the storekeeper. He also farms and tends livestock. By the 1870s, many people had acquired kitchen ranges. They had important advantages over the older box stoves, such as the one you see in the living room. Most of the ranges had tanks that automatically heated water for washing or bathing. They were made of extremely heavy cast iron, so they provided a very even heat, and they had ovens that made it possible to make fine breads and pastries. Baking was also facilitated by improvements in flour and leavening agents such as yeast and baking powder. Wheat replaced corn as the basic ingredient. New milling techniques produced fine white flour with all of the impurities and, unfortunately, some of the vitamins removed. Commercially produced yeasts of standard quality took the place of the homemade wild yeasts that had been used before. Of course, the final product still depended on the skill of the baker. Before store-bought clothing became common, women spent much of their time sewing garments for family members. Garrett Hollenberg once wrote that he got most of his clothes ready-made, but Sophia probably sewed most of her own clothing and perhaps that of her mother and the young hired girl. For thousands of years, women and sometimes men sewed by hand, stitching together hides or cloth for clothing or shelters. By the late 1700s, this handcraft was being partially replaced by primitive sewing machines that were being used in Europe to manufacture military uniforms. Elias Howe, an American, is credited with developing in the mid-1840s the first sewing machine that was practical for home use. His great rival, Isaac Singer, was not as mechanically talented as Howe, but he was a master at marketing. Therefore, Singer's machines began to flood into American homes during the 1850s, relieving women of much hand sewing. Holes in the floor were patched with tin cans and other odd items. This cutaway section of the wall shows the historic materials under the surface. The first layer is the original hand-hewn logs. The second layer is the hand-split lath that was later attached to the logs. The final layer is the plaster that was attached to the lath. The current finish throughout the interior is the plaster.
This is the view of the basement. I did not go down the steps because they looked fairly sketchy.
Why would anyone leave a comfortable home in the East or Midwest to face the hardship and uncertainty of moving to Oregon or California? Until almost 1850, neither region was part of the United States, so American settlers going there were actually foreign immigrants. Probably each person had slightly different motives for making the journey. Most were drawn by inexpensive land, others followed loved ones, or simply sought adventure. With the discovery of gold in the late 1840s, thousands of 49ers swarmed into California in search of quick fortunes. Garrett Hollenberg, later the builder and proprietor of Hollenberg Station, traveled from his native Germany to work the gold fields of California, Australia, and South America. Hanover, Kansas is a cool place to stop if you ever want to check out their Hollenberg Pony Express Museum.